Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari You can come here. There's not so many of us. It's the feast cooking time. No. So I thought, since it is the appearance day of Advaita Acharya, we could sing Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Doya Koramora. If you don't have the words, I put the link on the group. Otherwise, you can just Google Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Doya Koramora. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Doya Koramore Tuma bina ke doyalu Jagata samsare Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Doya Koramore Tuma bina ke doyalu Jagata samsare Patita pavana hetu Tava avatar Mo samapatita Prabhu Nai paibe Hetu Dava avatar Mo samapatita Prabhu Nai paibe Ha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Kripa balakana koro Ami boro duki Doya Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Kripa balakana koro Ami boro Doya Koro Sita Pati Advaita Gosai Tava Kripa Bale Pai Chaitanya Nitai Pati Advaita Gosai Tava Kripa Bale Pai Chaitanya Nitai Haha Swarup Sanatana Rupa Raghunata Bhatta Yuga Sri Jiva Prabhu Lokanata Swarup Sanatana Rupa Raghunata Bhatta Yuga Sri Jiva Prabhu Lokanata Doya Koro Sri Acharya Prabhu Srinivas Rama Ramachandra Sango Mage Naratamadas Doya Koro Shri Acharya Prabhu Srinivas Ramachandra Sango Mage Naratamadas Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Doya Kora More Tuma Bina Kedoyalu Jagata Samsare Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Doya Kora More Tuma Bina Kedoyalu Jagata Samsare Sri Advaita Acharya Ki Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Sri Prabhupada Ki Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishravanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai. So the verse that I wanted to read today, we'll read the Sanskrit and parts of the purport as we go along of other verses. But it's a verse spoken by Advaita Acharya, and it's a very simple verse. In fact, by the end of this, you could probably know it by heart. And it very much exemplifies the mood of Advaita Acharya. It goes like this. Chaitanya Radas Samui Chaitanya Radas Chaitanya Radas Samui Tanre Das Radas Chaitanya Radas Samui Chaitanya Radas Chaitanya Radas Samui Tanre Das Radas. You can also try. Chaitanya Radas Samui Chaitanya Radas Chaitanya Radas Samui Tanre Das Radas. In this verse, Advaita Acharya is saying that I am a servant of Lord Chaitanya, I am a servant of Lord Chaitanya, I am a servant of Lord Chaitanya, and I am a servant of the servants of Lord Chaitanya. And this very much exemplifies the mood of Advaita Acharya. So today on the appearance day of Advaita Acharya, we have this special blessing to be able to meditate on him, learn about him, and also we're able to approach him. Because on the appearance and disappearance days of great saintly persons, we are allowed to directly, we've given this access, like a free, you get a VIP pass. You go to some great concert, and then you have these big celebrity on stage. And then if you're super special, you get this VIP pass to go backstage and meet the celebrity. So these days, these appearance days and disappearance days of these acharyas, they're like our celebrities. And on these days, we get a VIP pass to be able to pray to them directly. So the question would start off being, who is Advaita Acharya? And we learn from the Chaitanya Charitamrita that Advaita Acharya is a combination. And this is also interesting, that you can get combination personalities. He is a combination of Mahavishnu, the expansion of Vishnu that is situated in the ocean, in the causal ocean, and Sada Shiva. So he's a combination of these two personalities. But we know Advaita Acharya also because he is so key in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. Because it is Lord Advaita Acharya who is the one who called upon Lord Chaitanya to appear. The Chaitanya Charitamrita says that Advaita Acharya, in text 30 of chapter 6, which is the chapter that is dedicated to the glories of Advaita Acharya, it says that he is the spiritual master of all devotees and is the most revered personality in the world. And by combination of these two names, Advaita and Acharya, he gets his name. And it also describes that he is a limb or a part of the Supreme Lord. And therefore he also bears the name Kamalaksha. I thought that's a really nice name. Kamalaksha, one who is a limb of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we also learn about Advaita Acharya that because Lord Chaitanya sees him as a disciple of Madhavendra Puri, which is also Lord Chaitanya's, the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master, therefore Lord Chaitanya obeys him and respects him as an elder and as the spiritual master. So Advaita Acharya is one of the elders. In Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, there are many elders, Jagannath Mishra, Sachi Devi. One of them is Advaita Acharya, Haridas Thakur. So how did Advaita Acharya, bring about the appearance of Lord Chaitanya? Well, Advaita Acharya, he looked at the condition of the world. He looked at the plight of the people in the world. He saw the influence of the age of Kali, that we were manda, sumanda, matayo. We had no reduced intelligence, reduced memory. We were always distracted, always disturbed. And he realized that we're going to need some special mercy. And so therefore, Lord Chaitanya, Advaita Acharya, he read in a certain Purana, the name escapes me now, but in a certain Purana he read Krishna saying that if you offer me Ganga Jal with a tulsi leaf, then I will be completely purchased. And all I could do in return is to offer myself to you. So after pondering so much about the plight of the people in this universe and on this planet, he then read this verse, and when he read it, he thought, this is it. This is how I can force the Lord to appear. And so he began his worship of the Shaligram Shila, offering more Ganga Jal, offering more Tulsi leaves. And as he made these offerings and he was calling out to the Lord in his very booming voice, because it said Advaita Acharya had this booming voice, and he was calling out to the Lord with such intention of heart that the Lord was impelled to appear. And so, it is the mood of Advaita Acharya, it is the prayer of Advaita Acharya, it's the calling of Advaita Acharya that brought that brings Lord Chaitanya to the earth planet. But also that is a little bit confusing, because Advaita Acharya, he is Mahavishnu and he is Sadashiva. So he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so, therefore, the Supreme Person, as Kadambakana Swami likes to say, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is now worshipping the Shaligram Shila, which is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for Lord Chaitanya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to appear. So we have God worshipping God for God to appear. And that is the nuance and the subtlety and the deep emotional and finesse of the bhakti tradition, that this can happen, and it can be totally beautifully correct. Because firstly, why did he have to worship Krishna for Krishna to appear? Krishna is scheduled to appear once in a day of Brahma, and then also in the age of Kali. So what was the need for Advaita Acharya to then call on the Lord to appear? The reason is that Advaita Acharya had to be the person to worship. Someone has to worship, because Lord Krishna is described as impartial. He is not biased towards the pious or the impious. Therefore, and we hear how, he gives every living entity remembrance, forgetfulness, and knowledge according to whatever they desire. So if we want to remember Krishna, he will help us remember him. And if we want to forget Krishna, he will help us forget him. So in that sense, he is impartial. But Krishna becomes partial due to the worship of a devotee. When a devotee is worshipping the Supreme Lord with an intention in the heart to draw out the Lord's compassion upon on the living entities, then Krishna becomes partial. So it is needed that Advaita Acharya worships the Shaligram Shila. He worships Krishna in order for Lord Chaitanya to appear, because it is that worship that makes Lord Chaitanya partial to appear. Because even though it's like clockwork that he appears in each yuga and he appears as the hidden incarnation, still, he's not forced to, because he's God. And if he can't just say, hey Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, okay, 500 years into Kali Yuga, now time to come down, ping. It doesn't happen like that. It's not like he works by appointment. It's that the mood has to be there, the mood that calls the Lord to appear, because he is only convinced by love. So, Advaita Acharya is the person who has this great compassion. He embodies this compassion that could bring the Lord here. And how he embodies that compassion, how do we know he embodies that compassion? Because Krishna could stay in Vrindavan, and he doesn't ever take one step out of Vrindavan, and he's always absorbed in his transcendental pastimes. But Advaita Acharya, he's the one who is the expansion of Mahavishnu, and Mahavishnu is the one who expands into the material world, and then as Garbhodakashaya Vishnu into every planet, into every universe, and then as Shirodakashaya Vishnu into the hearts of all the living entities and in between every atoms. So it is Vishnu, as Mahavishnu, who is actually dealing with the living entities on a one-on-one basis, when Krishna is absorbed in his pastimes. And so therefore it's imperative that Vishnu has some compassion, because he's making this connection. Of course, the super soul is also Krishna. It's not that Krishna is not compassionate. But definitely Advaita Acharya embodies this compassion, and we can see this compassion also in Mahavishnu. In the Chaitanya Bhagavat, it is said that Lord Vishvambar, which is Lord Chaitanya, looked at Advaita Acharya and said, I've descended in this world in response to your vow and your repeated worship. I was resting on the ocean of milk, but your roaring woke me up. You are so merciful that you could not bear to see the suffering of the conditioned living entities, and so you have summoned me to alleviate their painful condition. All these demigods, sages, devotees, and associates have appeared in response to your call. So what can we learn from this? We learn that when the devotee calls on our behalf, then we are most fortunate. But we also learn that we need to call. Because if we don't call upon the Lord, why would he need to come? When Draupadi was being disrobed amongst the Pandavas, Krishna was at the door. And Krishna being at the door, and she was being disrobed. When she held her one hand up, why didn't Krishna come? When they put her into the courtyard, why didn't Krishna come? Why did Krishna only come when she said, "Hey Govinda"? Because she needed to call him. And so if we don't call upon the Lord, just as Advaita Acharya called upon the Lord, then why would Krishna need to come? And we also don't need to just call upon the Lord for ourselves, because Advaita Acharya is calling upon him for all living entities in this Kali Yuga. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he remained hidden. And no one knew that Nimai was his extraordinary personality, including Advaita Acharya. So even though he called upon the Lord, he didn't know that the Lord appeared. And only later in Chaitanya Bhagavat, when the Lord says this, that I was sitting in the ocean of milk, what did he say? Yes, I was resting in the ocean of milk, but your roaring woke me up. Only when Advaita Acharya hears this later on, that's when he realizes the Lord has responded to that call. And Advaita Acharya lifts his hands up and he responds, "Today my life has become successful. All my dreams have been fulfilled. By seeing your lotus feet, my birth has gained meaning. O Lord, who else but you could liberate all living entities?" And tears rolled down his cheeks. And so Advaita Acharya at this point begins worshipping Lord Chaitanya. He begins worshipping him by washing his feet and then smearing oil on them and then putting on tulsi leaves that are dipped with sandalwood. And as Advaita Acharya performs his worship with incense, with flowers, with lamps, he recites the famous verse, which is Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Hataya Jagaditaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. So we can insinuate that when Advaita Acharya was worshipping that Shaligram Shila and was offering those tulsi leaves, what verse was he most likely reciting? Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Hitaya Cha Jagaditaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. And this verse, for us, when we think about it, it's like the prasadam verse. It's the Bhoga offering prasad verse. But this is where it's actually coming from Advaita Acharya's worship. Jai Shri Radha Radha Nath ki Jai, Sri Advaita Acharya ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki Jai, Shri Giraj Govardhan ki Jai. So it is coming from the worship. I don't think it originated there, but it's coming in our line through Advaita Acharya. And so when we recite this verse, we should also remember Advaita Acharya. And what is Advaita Acharya doing? He is calling to the Lord to appear. So why did Advaita Acharya want Lord Chaitanya to appear? Because only Lord Chaitanya, only the Supreme Lord can give Krishna prema. So even though Advaita Acharya knows he is the Supreme, even though he's in the mood of a devotee, he knows that only Krishna himself can give pure love of Godhead and the highest levels of pure love of Godhead. And so therefore, it's so interesting because Advaita Acharya has ability, but he wants to give everyone the topmost expression of compassion. And that's why he wants Lord Chaitanya to come. And isn't this impressive? When you get a service that you can do, that you've been trained to do, that you know how to do, but then you see someone comes and someone else who can do it better. And then Advaita Acharya is just willing, like, yes, you come, you do it. Advaita Acharya wasn't thinking, I'm God, I got this down, He was calling on to Lord Chaitanya because Lord Chaitanya could give something that nobody else could give. Advaita Acharya was not interested in just establishing the principles of Dharma. That wasn't going to be enough. Not for the people in the age of Kali. What do they think about Dharma? So therefore he knew that Lord Chaitanya had to come. Because compassion was needed beyond reason, beyond justice, beyond what people deserved. And for that sort of compassion we needed Lord Chaitanya. So therefore the mood of Advaita Acharya is that Advaita Acharya sees himself as the servant. As a servant of Lord Chaitanya. Chaitanya Radas Samui Chaitanya Radas Chaitanya Radas Samui Tanradas Radas. He's a servant of Lord Chaitanya and the servant of his servants. And that is the mood that Advaita Acharya always established. And it comes across in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in that same chapter where he is thinking, Advaita Acharya, where it says, to maintain the proper etiquette for the principles of religion, Lord Chaitanya bows down to the lotus feet of Sri Advaita Acharya with reverential praise and devotion. Sri Advaita Acharya, however, considers Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu his master, and he thinks of himself as the servant of Lord Chaitanya. I like this verse. He forgets himself in the joy of that conception and teaches all living entities, you are the servants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the joy of servitude, Advaita Acharya can forget that he is supreme. That's beautiful because we're all engaged somehow or the other in service. If you chant Hare Krishna, you're doing a service, and maybe we have other services. But sometimes we don't feel very joyful when doing our services. So today we can pray to Advaita Acharya that the conception that the joy of the conception of service reaches our hearts also. The conception of servitude to Sri Krishna generates an ocean of joy in the soul that even the joy of oneness with the Absolute, if multiplied 10 million times, could not compare to a drop of it. Advaita Acharya says, Nityananda and I are servants of Lord Chaitanya. Nowhere else is there such joy as that which is tasted in this emotion of servitude. The most beloved goddess of fortune resides in the chest of Sri Krishna, yet she too earnestly prays, begs for the joy of service at his feet. Sri Advaita Acharya thinks Lord Chaitanya considers me his spiritual master, yet I feel myself only to be his servant. Love for Krishna has this one unique effect. It imbues superiors, equals, and inferiors with the spirit of service to Lord Krishna. Isn't that a beautiful verse? And it explains why you would see that Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and the line of our Acharyas, they saw that they were servants of those they were helping. Bhaktisiddhanta said that, he referred to all his disciples as representatives of the Guru, but also people that he was meant to serve. And so this is valid because of this verse, that love for Krishna has this unique effect because it imbues superiors, equals, and inferiors with the spirit of service. Actually, the truth is the more inferior we are, the less we want to serve. So it's a sign of the heart. Saying this, Advaita Acharya, Advaita Prabhu dances loud and loudly sings, and then the next moment he quietly sits down. So this personality of Advaita Acharya, it's large, it's booming, it's unpredictable. Like when Advaita Acharya was propagating some Mayavad philosophy, but he was doing it because he didn't want Lord Chaitanya to see him as a spiritual teacher. And when Lord Chaitanya found out, he was irate, he was furious, and he goes to Advaita Acharya, and he almost throws him off the Vyasasana. And Advaita Acharya starts dancing in ecstasy, because finally Lord Chaitanya could see him as an inferior. And so it comes across, especially with Advaita Acharya, when Lord Chaitanya is doing the revelation, when he's revealing that he's a Supreme Personality of Godhead to different personalities, then he reminds Advaita Acharya how there was a verse in the Bhagavad Gita that he couldn't understand, Advaita Acharya. The verse that says, 13:14, that says, everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes and faces, he has ears everywhere, and in this way, God exists, pervading everything. Now in the translation we have by Srila Prabhupada, it says the super soul exists. But the reason why Srila Prabhupada can say that is because Advaita Acharya had pondered over this verse. What does this mean? That Krishna is everywhere, his hands and legs are everywhere. It sounds very Mayavad. So he's wondering how do you explain this verse? And so it happens sometimes that when Advaita Acharya was teaching the Bhagavad Gita and he couldn't comprehend something, he became very upset because he didn't want to find any fault with the Gita, but only with his own explanations. And then what would he do? He would fast. He would fast until it could be explained to him. And then at night, Lord Chaitanya would appear in his dream and say, please don't fast. You don't need to fast. And then Lord Chaitanya would explain, no, actually, this is referring to the super soul. Therefore, many eyes, many arms, because the super soul is in everyone's heart. So that's the sweet relationship that existed between Advaita Acharya and Lord Chaitanya. But there was also a very sweet relationship that existed between Advaita Acharya and Lord Nityananda. And therefore it's really, you can see that the way our Vaishnav calendar is designed is that through the festivals that are celebrating this Panchatattva, our heart is able and our mind is able to approach the mercy of Lord Chaitanya through these various personalities. The song Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Doya Kora More says, Doya Koro Sitapati Advaita Gosai Tava Kripa Bale Pai Chaitanya Nitai. That it's through the mercy of Advaita Acharya that we can call out to Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. So it's fitting that we observe the appearance day of Advaita Acharya now, that next week Monday we'll observe the appearance day of Lord Nityananda, and that will lead us on to Gaur Purnima. Because every time we're meditating on these personalities, we're connecting to their spirit, and then maybe they will call for us. Maybe they will call to Krishna on our behalf, and then we can access the mercy of the next personality. By meditating and praying to Advaita Acharya, then maybe we can access the mercy of Lord Nityananda. And by meditating and praying to Lord Nityananda, we can access the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And how will we be able to chant Hare Krishna if we do not access the mercy of the Panchatattva? How will our heart transform if we're not getting access to the Hare Krishna mantra? So it's so expertly arranged that we can approach these appearance days in the mood that gives us the most benefit. And so another aspect of Advaita Acharya that appeals to me is the aspect of how Srila Prabhupada went to the house of Advaita Acharya before he came to the Western world, to America. And there's a really nice article on it, chapter written by Mula Prakriti Devi Dasi, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and I wanted to read you some extract from it because it describes how Srila Prabhupada, from reading the article we can see how Srila Prabhupada valued the connection with Advaita Acharya. In 1980, the head priest from Sri Advaita Acharya's house in Shantipur, West Bengal, came to the ISKCON Chandradoya Mandir in Mayapur, carrying with him a copy of the Back to Godhead article about Srila Prabhupada, entitled A Lifetime in Preparation. The following is what he is reported to have said. Just recently, an amazing realization occurred to me, and I wanted to share it with the devotees everywhere. I've been a pujari and a sevite, priest and caretaker, at the house of Advaita Acharya for many years. And I was also back there in the 1940s and 50s. And at that time I noticed that one grihasta, a married gentleman, a Bengali devotee, used to come to the temple quite regularly. He was dressed in a white khadi dhoti and kurta, and he always came alone. He would sit in the back of the mandir without speaking and would chant Harinam, the holy names of God, on his mala, very quietly and deeply. I noticed that he came on the weekends, usually once every month or two, in regular way. After chanting there for many hours, he would always thank me when he left. His presence was profound, and I became attracted to him. Since his devotions were solitary, I never spoke to disturb him. Sometimes I happened to notice that while he was chanting, his eyes would be full of tears and his voice would be choked up. Then for a very long time he did not come. Prabhupada went to Vrindavan, because Kolkata is close to Mayapur. Prabhupada was a grihastha there. So most likely at this time Prabhupada went to Vrindavan. However, I distinctly recall that in August of 1965, I saw a saffron-clad sannyasi, renounced traveling preacher, sitting in the back of a mandir, of the mandir. In a moment, I recognized him to be my old friend from before. Again, he sat for a long time chanting Hare Krishna. I could see his beads moving, his eyes closed in concentrated devotion. He was weeping unabashedly, even more than he used to, while he took the holy name. Finally, as evening came, he paid his Dandavat Pranam for a long time. And when he rose up and came to me and again thanked me for my seva here at Advaita Bhavan, I asked him, "Who are you? I remember you from so long ago." He replied, "My name is Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. I am an unworthy disciple of His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, my Divine Master. I've been coming here for such a long time because my Gurudev has given me an impossible mission. His desire was for me to go across the ocean to the Western countries and spread the sublime teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There are countless souls there who have never heard of Sri Radha Krishna, and so they are suffering greatly. I have not known how this mission of his will be successful, so I have been coming here to the special house of Advaita Acharya, where he, Nityananda Prabhu, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would gather together to plan the Sankirtan congregational Sankirtan movement. It was here that they launched the inundation of love of God that swept India and continues to today. Thus I have been praying very earnestly here that they will give me their mercy and that somehow they will empower me and guide me. I want to satisfy my Gurudev's desire, but I am feeling unqualified to do this." As he was speaking to me, I saw tears falling down on his cheeks. And then he continued, "Tomorrow I am leaving for Calcutta to go upon a ship across the ocean to America. I do not know what will befall me there, but I am praying most earnestly here for help." And then he very humbly asked me for my blessings. I was indeed moved by this Vaishnava's sincerity and determination as I watched him depart on his journey. It was a few years later that I began noticing for the first time white Vaishnavas coming to Advaita Bhavan. They were wearing dhotis and saris and chanting on Tulsi Mala. I never spoke to any of them, but one of them gave me this Back to Godhead magazine from America, and as I looked at the photographs, suddenly I recognized a painting of the founder Acharya who had brought Krishna consciousness to the West. It was a picture of my friend, Bhaktivedanta Swami, who had come and prayed here so many times before. Then I realized that he has actually accomplished the impossible mission of his Gurudev. I saw that it was indeed he, starting alone, without pretense, who had accomplished this glorious miracle against all odds. As soon as I saw this, I came here to this temple in Mayapur to tell you this information. I know that he has gone from the world now, but I thought perhaps you might want to know the story about your and my beloved Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada could have gone to many places in Mayapur. He could have gone to the Radha Govinda Mandir, could have gone to the yoga pit, he could have gone to the banks of the Ganges, could have gone anywhere. But somehow he went to the house of Advaita Acharya, and that's where he took shelter, and that's where he prayed, and that's where he chanted. And so we remember Srila Prabhupada's mood of dependence, because there was Srila Prabhupada calling out in the house of Advaita Acharya for the mercy. And this time, who was he calling on behalf of? All of us. That somehow the impossible can be achieved. Advaita Acharya was asking for the impossible when he asked for Lord Chaitanya to descend. He wasn't even sure that the prayer was answered. And so Srila Prabhupada was also asking for the impossible. And had no idea what he was stepping into. But faith in the instruction of the spiritual master and faith in the holy name were the two jewels that Srila Prabhupada clung to. And then there's us, comfortable in our little cushy spaces in devotion. And sometimes we need something to call out for in order for us to access the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, access the mercy of the holy names, access the mercy of Advaita Acharya and the previous Acharyas. And so today, on Advaita Acharya's appearance day, we turn to him and we can pray that we may also call out to the Lord with a heart like he did. We turn to him to pray that our mood for service can grow. And service is there, but motivation in service can be sometimes slighted, like ink in the water jar. We pray to Lord Chaitanya that motivation can be purified, gently, joyfully. It can be purified, and that we can genuine desire to serve the Acharyas and their mission may be born within our hearts. That we pray to Lord Chaitanya for compassion. Because we walk out the streets and we see suffering, and sometimes it doesn't touch us. It doesn't touch us. It's just us and the world, and we in our space and they're in their space. And we may not feel anything. And sometimes even if we feel anything, it feels so far to reach to somebody. So many barriers in between that we have to break through. But if Advaita Acharya's call can reach Mahavishnu on the ocean of milk, then maybe our tiny call to Srila Prabhupada, if Srila Prabhupada's call could reach Advaita Acharya and allow him to cross the ocean, then maybe our tiny call to Prabhupada and to Advaita Acharya can help us move through the coverings that separate us from some other person, so that compassion can genuinely come both in our hearts and that somebody else may benefit from the mercy of the Supreme Lord and end the cycle of suffering. So today, on the appearance of Advaita Acharya, we pray to him for these things. We pray to him to be an instrument of mercy. I'm going to stop here, and if there's any thoughts or things you'd like to share, comments or questions, we'd like to take it now. Would you like to share something?
That was excellent. I'm glad you didn't cover all the things I planned to say later. I was once in Laguna Beach, and I was planning the next lecture I was going to give, and I was going to tell the story of Haridas Thakur and Nityananda and Jagai Madai. And Tukaram says, oh, and I have a story. I'm like, oh, I know he's going to tell it. He told that one. So there's so many aspects of Advaita. The main comment I will give will be today at 11:45. But some people misunderstand the Sadashiva. They think that that's Shiva. But it's not. Sadashiva is Vishnu in the spiritual world worshiping himself. So it's just where the spiritual world begins and Vishnu's worshiping himself. So that's Sadar Shiva. It doesn't mean that he's Vishnu and Shiva. Some people misunderstand that. They assume things. You know, we have to look into the whole picture. But I better not say too much because I speak for 45 minutes at 11:45. Did you leave anything for me to tell? They'll have to come and see. Who's coming? You'll come?
We're on campus.
At the campus? Oh my goodness.
But usually the midday program, devotees will come also from the congregation.
Yes.
And please come and hear Shruti Prabhu at 11:45 if you want the real
Since you've told it all,
nectar.
I shouldn't lecture?
No, the Advaita Acharya, it's worth saying again and again and again, and you'll say it so much better, Prabhu. So
It's hard to give this one because, you know, we have the experts, like you see that Bhakti Chaitanya Swami has such a special affection for Advaita Acharya. And Tukaram in Laguna Beach, he's quite the scholar and a genius. And we have the Panchatattva deities there, so they can really give the class on it. But it's like so much that even if we can give a drop of that nectar, it's still a lot, right? So I say somebody else has 100 trillion rand, but I can only give you 1% of that. It's still a lot, right? Yes, 1% would be a lot. I thought you were going to explain about all of Advaita's glories. No, we'll save some for me at 11:45. You're taking them to the campus with you, or they're going somewhere different? Oh. I hope you all get well oriented there. You're going to get oriented there? Just like they asked me on Sunday that I was supposed to do an interview for the students. And I thought, okay, what am I supposed to interview you about? They said, no, we're interviewing you. So you're not getting oriented, you're giving orientation? All right. Hare Krishna. Any others who'd like to make a comment?
Hare Krishna, I really enjoyed your sermon today. It was very fulfilling for me as a Christian student. So it's mind-blowing when he speaks about 1% over a 10% offering that we give. Because in everything that we do, even our orientation is our livelihood, that we go and do work and come back, offer obeisances to Krishna. So even now, the concern that is, you talk about the suffering in the world, and now you know what's going on in America and with the president, and now the probing on South Africa. So I'm just, this morning I listened to the news and I just said, Lord, you just mentioned the Supreme. We go back to the Supreme for all answers. But you know the best part what you said was, when the suffering of the world is that we need to come to the one point of being premier of the Acharyas and what they've taught us and teaching us. So I'm just blessed that I could be here, and thank you for the message. It actually helped me to work certain things out. So, well, we're just praying for peace for our country, and you know our God will advance us in some education, wisdom, and understanding to prior our admin in the governmental offices. So, strength to Hare Krishna and our devotees that are chanting and praying. Thank you.
thank you so much for hearing with an open heart. Hare Krishna. Shri Advaita Acharya ki, Shri Prabhupada ki.